So let me tell you a quick story about, this is the city panel. So again, the city is another vital part of our lives. This is our community. And when we first started bringing the idea of a culture piece to the city, and this is with a team of people, including Eric Sorokin is here, and Herb Rothschild, and a couple others, and Irene and myself. And we went to meet with Mayor Stromberg and started talking to them about, well, the culture piece and what that means and what that could mean, and the city's support or role in that. And what we heard was, well, that's nice, but we're the city, and we do streets, and we make sure that the electricity's on, and we make sure the water runs and the sewers. Here we are today. This is an evolution with embracement of, a couple of years ago, the City of Peace, that step forward. And again, it is the community, the city is embracing all the more as individuals in the roles and responsibility, and also as a community. So there is an evolution that does take place. So I'm delighted to have you all here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David. Well, I feel honored to be sitting in the middle of this illustrious company. Whenever I'm near anyone who's wearing a uniform, I always behave myself. So, thanks, Tighe.
No problem. I'll keep the handcuffs handy.
Oh, no. It's an extraordinary opportunity that we have today. We're not just in this room to talk about peace. We're here to experience a culture of peace. And as we may know from science class in high school, cultures grow life. They incubate something. We have a culture of peace, which incubates more peace. So the four of you I'm inviting to share with us initially, maybe we'll start with you, Rich, since you're on the end there, and you look eager, ready to go. Just your personal experience, and I know you all have some prepared comments, and we'll get to those, but just to connect with the audience in a more personal way, your personal experience of being the flame. I'm not thinking so much of your work, but personally, because that's inspiring for other individuals, how do you be the flame in your personal life?
No, well, hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you for the question, Will. For me, I think it has a lot to do with how I try to comport myself in terms of whatever it is I'm doing, whether I'm representing citizens on the city council or trying to serve citizens through my work in Medford. It's just, you try to be patient, try to be a good listener, and be approachable, and it's all about professionalism, trying to do things the right way. And it's, sometimes it's challenging, but that's probably the best thing that I can do, is try to be a role model for my son, and that's what I can control, and that's how I can represent myself and my family.
Thanks, Rich. Sandra?
Good morning. Well, I was quite inspired by the ambassador's remarks, and really because I do personally believe that to achieve global peace, it really has to start at home. And my partner in life, my husband, my boyfriend, Dennis Slattery, he and I have an environment at home that is peaceful, and we work to keep it that way. And by having that kind of dialogue with each other first, with our family, with our friends, and extend it into the community and to our work sites, everything we do is a collaboration, and we talk about peace, and we talk about the challenge of what that is when sometimes the dialogue we get from others isn't so peaceful. So how do we individually connect and commit to that on a daily basis? And we work very hard at that. We have a very joyful home and happy pets, and I hope happy friends and people that we are so grateful that are in our lives every single day. So I would say it's a daily experience and something I am immensely grateful for and think about all the time.
Thank you, Sandra. Yes? And Tighe, how about you, your personal experience of being the flame of peace?
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, everybody. I'm honored to be here. One of the things that I believe is, I think we all recognize is most important about building a community of peace is relationship building and bridge building and understanding each other best. And that's something that I really take to heart. And I think it would be very easy for me to say, I want citizen engagement, but that ends when I walk out the door and I'm enjoying my personal time. So what I have really tried to do is make myself available, with very rare exception, 24 hours a day, regardless of what I'm doing. If somebody wants to stop me in the grocery store and talk to me about a problem, fine, let's do it. You catch me at Omar's having a drink at 6 o'clock and you want to talk to me about something, fine, let's talk about it. Let's understand each other a little bit better. And there's real benefit in that. There's something really substantial in that. Even if we don't agree with each other, even if we can't find an answer, especially with the very weighty issues like race relations and other relationships with other marginalized communities, there are no easy answers for those topics, but there's a benefit to talking about it. There's a benefit just to understanding each other a little bit better. And that's something that I really try to embrace and carry with me throughout my entire existence, personal and professional, here in Ashland as the police chief.
Thank you, Tighe.
Yep.
Such an honor for me to be here today and just to be present with the inspirational speakers that I've heard so far today, and just to be part of this community. For me, I have a personal value, since we're talking about personal and not my role as school superintendent, is around joy. That's one of my values, and you can't find joy, I don't believe, without peace. So I'm highly reflective. I'm always listening and learning, because I think communication is key to promote and continue a culture of peace. So in my value of joy, listening and learning, communicating, and just being present. I'm doing some deep work myself because it starts with me. As a leader of schools, I am the leader of being a peacemaker. And so I believe that is my role, in leading that vision for our schools. And if it doesn't start with me as a peacemaker and modeling that for our students in our community, then it doesn't happen.
Thank you, Tighe. I'm always so amazed when a number of people speak together, the coherence that develops like almost immediately and very naturally. What did we just hear? I mean, we started with Rich, who talked about personal integrity, right? How he comports himself. And then Sandra talked about dialogue, or relationship with her husband, happy pets in her home. And then Tighe talked about community relationships and being available 24/7, dealing with difficult issues and not feeling we can solve them overnight. And then Kelly took us right to the heart of things. Joy is essential in a culture of peace and for young people, which seems to be a theme that's really emerging today. So bravo, we're already weaving something here together. I know you all prepared some comments, so I'd like to entertain those now. And if we can keep them fairly brief, it gives us more time to weave together. But Rich, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. Well, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, David and Irene, for this high honor of being invited to speak. And thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for your message of hope, and I appreciated your kind remarks about Mayor and Council, Dr. Yang. And I just want to say that as a member of the City Council, it's an honor to serve, and I want to acknowledge the other councilors who were here in attendance, Councilor Slattery, Councilor Graham, and the Mayor was here earlier, and those who I've served with over the past 7 years, Representative Marsh, who I've learned a tremendous amount from, and Jackie Bachman here. But, I wanted to talk about, what we can do in terms of the political environment locally. We may not have much of an impact on the national discourse, but we all have a lot of impact on who you select to represent you at the local level. And we see that. And there are some 5 points of advice that I can give to those who are interested in being an elected volunteer based on my experience. Or conversely, the things that you should insist upon in your local representatives. So those 5 things are: 1, be prepared to collaborate. And that we are elected, but there are 6 councilors and a mayor. So you may have lots of ideas and opinions, and I want to campaign on things. I want to achieve A, B, C, or D. But you better learn to count to 4, because you can't accomplish anything without bringing at least 3 other people along with you. And you cannot influence people if you point fingers, call them names, and insult them, because that's the type of thing that the people will remember down the line. You have to be able to work with people, so you have to be collaborative and be patient in doing so. You have to be tactful. Number 2, you have to be tactful, have to be diplomatic, and that is sometimes difficult to do when people point fingers at you, et cetera, et cetera. You have to have thick skin. You'll not always agree with one another. It's how you go about having the discussion that's important. Now, you're not going to win every vote, but character is demonstrated in times of adversity or in times of success. If you're on the short end of a spirited discussion, how do you react? Do you get mad? Do you go write op-ed letters to the newspaper? Do you post on social media chat rooms? Do you vent? Or do you try to work around the margins and try to influence things as best you can? So that's number 2. Number 3, you have to be judicious. There's so many things that you can consider on city council that are not the most interesting things you could be working with, such as public works master plans and like that. So you're selected to be the community's umpire. It's like you have to do the reading, you got to do the job. It's an elected, you're donating your time, but you still signed up for a job to do. You got to do the reading. You got to find the facts, discover them, and cast votes that, on topics that aren't necessarily interesting, but you're representing people. 4, have to be forward-thinking. Absolutely have to think about the people who you represent who are here now, living here now, but also the people who are going to be living in Ashland, my son, my grandson, if I'm lucky to have, or granddaughter. The people who are going to be living here in 50 years, you have to think about those people too, and that is difficult when you have a room full of people who are advocating, may have pitchforks sometimes, and you have to cast a vote that is counter to that. You have to be forward-thinking, and that's sometimes not popular. And finally, have to be responsive, whether you run and you're paid to represent the people or you're an elected volunteer. When you have to be professional, respond to emails that are addressed to you personally, correspondence addressed to you personally, phone calls, people who want to meet with you. You have to make the time to do that and be credible and show that you care and that you listen. So a year from now, when we have local elections for these things, you have to ask yourself which candidates are most likely to do these sorts of things. You may not agree with everything that they stand for, but who are the candidates most apt to stand for the principles, the Ashland culture of peace, and the concept of local global initiative and core values, caring, compassion, et cetera, et cetera. So you can have an impact on that and on the people who you choose to represent you here locally.
Thank you, Rich. I really appreciated your comments. I want to thank Irene and David. Dennis and I have known them for many, many years, worked with them, supported however we could their efforts, and to be sitting here today is an honor, and I have great admiration for the amount of work and dedication that you both have put into this, so thank you. Through the chamber, some of you know what we do, some of you don't, but what I can tell you most is we're about bringing business owners and community members, community leaders, organizations together to improve and enhance our economy and our quality of life. And those two go hand in hand. They always have for us. We are an educationally based organization, and our goal is really to inspire, to educate, and to lead efforts to really help people succeed in a challenging business environment and a challenging world. We have recognized for a long time that peace is made when people have access and they're allowed to be involved in the way they wish. It's about respecting ideas that are different than yours and believing that success can be achieved if you have an open mind, encourage new perspectives, new ways of solving problems, and then you find creative solutions and innovation. But it can only be done if people are positive and willing to look at new ways of thinking. Our inherent values of collaboration are in everything we do. We could not possibly achieve anything if we didn't have the kind of collaboration we do in this community, working with our key organizations, the university, the schools, the city, the hospital, all the various partners. It just would be impossible to achieve what we do without that. And it is the cornerstone of really everything we do. The people that are involved, it's not easy work, but they believe that they can be successful, that together we can achieve our goals of whatever task we may be looking at. We have a diverse group. We have 700 businesses and organizations that are members of the chamber, but we don't exclude anything we do to just members. So many thousands of people work throughout the year, and I'm really proud to be part of that. The people that serve at kind of the front lines of our organization in terms of hosting and attending weekly greeters meetings and inviting new businesses into the community are they care, and they're friendly, and they're open, and that's such a special asset of our community. And that's true also of our over 100 volunteers that greet visitors into our community and people thinking about living here, raising their families here. What does that look like? Well, these are people, individuals, some of you in this room. And that time that you give, the expertise, the love of this community is reflected every single day in what you do. So that is a big part of, in my mind, peace building. We choose by design to not have a political action committee as a chamber. And that is a very unusual direction for Chamber of Commerce. We do not support candidates for office. We do not support the political work of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And that's because we believe that everyone has an opportunity to make up their own mind. So we create legislative forums where we invite all candidates, all parties, all perspectives to discuss issues in our community. And we film that, and we televise that, and we share that with the population because we believe people are intelligent and they just need information. We do that in partnership with our community again. We also believe that peace is about individual health. That a lot of times people have anger and frustration, conflict because they're dealing with something personal. Maybe it's a financial challenge, a physical health, an emotional health, a disconnect, a social disconnect. And we have a whole effort led through the chamber and through our CEO of the hospital, Sheila Clow, in health and well-being. And what does that mean for our workforce? What does that mean for our community? How do we improve that? And that's peace. That's creating individual peace at home where people can feel safe and secure and healthy. Again, a very different activity and initiative for a chamber to have. We believe that more voices are important, so we have hundreds of people serving on committees and task forces, and sometimes that takes longer to achieve a result, but the results are better. And we're committed to working through conflict and challenge again, because we believe that the dialogue, as long as we're all on that, as long as we all believe and we don't make assumptions and judgments, but we listen and are open to how people might see things differently, then we can work for a better solution for whatever that goal is. And I suppose to keep it short, I'll just conclude by saying that I do believe that one of the peaceful efforts for a community, for a goal, is to have a personal action that reflects kindness and openness, that daily attention is really a practical piece. It's not something unachievable. It's daily and it takes action. I believe most people have good intentions. I truly believe that. And one of the best lessons my mother ever taught me was thoughts control your life. And you should every day go into the world with an open hand, an open heart, believe in others, remain positive, and expect good. Always expect good.
Thank you. Great story. Thanks.
I too would like to thank David and Irene for the invitation to be here, and I'd like to extend a special welcome to Dr. Yang and Ambassador Chowdhury on behalf of the Ashland Police Department. We're honored that both of you have chosen to visit us today, as well as so many other people. I'm proud to be a founding commissioner of the Ashland Culture of Peace Commission, and I didn't know anything about it, of course, when David called and said, hey, would you join us on this endeavor? And I quickly saw that the Ashland Culture of Peace Commission is very much aligned with how we try to do our jobs as Ashland police officers. It's not about each person getting his or her or their way. It's about every member of the community coming together and collaborating. So I'm the third person up here. I doubt the last to talk about collaboration. And through better understanding of each other, we can reach better decisions. Through more diverse input, we can reach better decisions about how we're going to proceed. The core values of the Ashland Police Department is summed up in an acronym, FAIR, F-A-I-R. F stands for fair, A, accountability, I, integrity, and R, respect for people. And this is certainly well aligned with the ACPC and what it's all about. And these values also mirror a principle that we try very hard to adhere to at the Ashland Police Department. It's called procedural justice. And it's a very simple philosophy, but it's a very powerful philosophy. Through procedural justice, we know that we must treat each person, regardless of their role in a police encounter, with respect. We must allow each person to have their voice. We must allow each person to be respected. And the one that I think is just as important, so I included, is that we should never challenge anybody's dignity. When you challenge somebody's dignity, that's when things get really, really ugly. And if we can successfully navigate encounters using the principles of procedural justice, really good stuff happens. We build legitimacy in the eyes of the community, and we have to employ force much less often. And there are a lot of studies that demonstrate, and we all know, that people don't care so much about what decisions are made that affect them. People care about how they were treated while those decisions were being made. So if we can give somebody even negative news, and if something doesn't go in a person's direction, they care more about how they were treated in the process.
Yeah.
So David and Irene approached me about an organization called police2peace.org. And one of the programs that this organization embraces is the Peace Officer Program. And when David first approached me on this, and the Ashland Police Department has been on the cutting edge of a lot of really cool programs, and frankly, it's kind of tiring sometimes to be on the cutting edge and to consistently put yourself out there. And APD comes up with a new program, and a lot of my colleagues, a lot of my peers say, oh, what crazy program is Ashland coming up with now? So he said, I want to talk to you about this peace officer program. And my first reaction was, why do we have to be the first to do something in the state? Why do we have to be the first? And I kind of rolled my eyes and said, all right, I'll think about it. And in the time it took me to drive from the Ashland Culture of Peace office downtown back to the police station, so about a 3-minute trip, I was sold. This is a great idea. We need to do this. And I walked in and I talked to my command staff about it, and immediately, this is a great idea. We're going to do this. And so it's a very simple thing. This program simply has us affix 2 words. It doesn't remove any decals from the cars. We parked a APD police vehicle out here very deliberately because we wanted to show off the addition of the words peace officer. And this is both a very simple thing but also a very important thing. It is a reminder that we are not just police. We are not just enforcers of the law, but we are community partners. We are here to build relationships. We're here to understand what the issues are, try to address them before they become bigger issues. I didn't think I would get a lot of pushback, but I didn't get any pushback from the men and women of the Ashland Police Department. Everybody got firmly behind us. So it's a daily reminder to all of us that police is still on the car, of course. Police is what we do. Peace officer is how we try to do it. It's making sure we treat everybody with respect. We never challenge anybody's dignity. We understand every side of a situation before we make an informed decision. And again, this builds relationships, it builds legitimacy, and it minimizes the need to do the stuff that none of us want to see done at the hands of a police officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Tighe.
Wow, I should have swapped seats. Just want to say how fortunate I feel on International Day of Peace to be here and to be invited here today. Thank you to the Ashland Peace Commission. David and Irene, for all the work you're doing in the community and being that relentless peacemaker for all of us. And our honoured guests being here today, your words were very inspiring, and I think having our teacher, Ms. Healy, and Finn, our student here, also sharing words, but also listening to the words that we've heard today will, I think, motivate and continue the culture of peace in Ashland schools. I'm inspired, and I've already got ideas that I want to implement when we go back to school on Monday and start talking to leadership about some ideas that we can continue the culture of peace. You know, as the leader of the school district in Ashland, being here now, this is my 3rd year, I feel very honoured to be the superintendent in this wonderful community. And as the leader and setting the vision, our goals, I want to say that we had stakeholders when we did our strategic plan. It's our 2nd year of our strategic plan called Pathways to Excellence. I'd love to call it Pathways to Excellence and Peace. And that can be an iteration that we could add as we move along. But I wanted to say it was a community input that we have our values set around inclusivity. And also we have a goal. Our goal 3 in our strategic plan is around safety and people feeling welcome, all staff and students feeling welcome, and inclusivity. And I think that is what Ashland is about, and that came very clearly when we started doing our strategic plan. Because without a safe and peaceful environment, our students can't learn. So that is, as the leader, that's my model and my vision to keep that going is our safe and peaceful environment. So we have a school and community of learners. So our children develop a culture of peace because they are our future. As you've heard this morning, I would like to also thank our what I like to call them as keepers of the flame, even though we say flame keepers as well, Ms. Healy. It's teachers, as outstanding educators who lead this work with our students day in, day out. So I want to honour Ms. Healy for leading. Healy is at the middle school, as you know, and we heard Finn, our inspirational student speaker today, talk about the Fresh Start program. So as he transitioned into high school, we have an amazing orientation for our students where they do build collaborative structures together and they have dialogue together. Not always agreeing, and they have this thing called big questions where they can ask any question. It's one of the finales of the event where they can ask questions that are concerning them or they just want to know an answer to. And they're very thoughtful and very deep questions. And so, as we look at K-12 lens, when I talked about a little bit about the middle school and the high school, but we also have our elementary schools. And when we did, I was invited to the peace playing ceremony with our students. And as we thought about that, I also met with the World Peace Playing Foundation, 2 members, who had a meeting with me and brought in some curriculum ideas, some supplemental curriculum ideas for elementary schools that they've developed. And actually, we would be the first in the United States to have this curriculum in our schools.
Wow.
So it's a pretty amazing opportunity. Wow. They have it in several other countries. I'm a native from Australia, and they have it there. And actually, one of the foundation members was an Australian, so we had a good conversation. But I was just very grateful to meet with them and for Ira and David to bring them to the schools and to give us this opportunity to have this curriculum in our schools. Because what it does is it encourages discussion on peace for our children. It also gives them an understanding at our elementary level. We heard clearly from Ambassador Chowdhury today that we need to start at a young age. And 4 years old, I think, was mentioned. So we usually get our students at 5 and 6. So it's very important we have partnerships with our pre-K providers. And so we want students to be able to understand what does that mean even at a young age? And then how do we interact with each other as students? And ways to experience self, because we know, first of all, we have to instill in our students that peace starts with them first, their inner peace. And then how do they work with others and express themselves in a peaceful way? And we do this through a positive approach. We have social and emotional learning curriculum, and this peace curriculum that we got, Peace in Action, it's called, supplements that. And so social emotional learning, very important for our students. So we have the academic side, we have the behavioural side, and we have many, I'd say, fabulous programs at our school, very different at each school and at each level, doing mindfulness at elementary school, also doing restorative justice practices in our secondary schools are just a couple of examples. And this curriculum actually embeds and aligns to that. It also aligns to our core values. So that is all I have to say right now about peace in the schools. I'm very inspired to be here today and to continue the conversation. And I just want to thank the community because this is we have, a value of whole child education in Ashland, and the community is a tremendous support to our students, and I just want to thank you. I can't thank you enough for supporting our students every day because they are our future.
Well, every moment that goes by, it's becoming more obvious why Ambassador Chowdhury was excited to come to Ashland. I think we can all just thank our lucky stars that we live in this remarkable community, sometimes described as 4 square miles surrounded by reality. I tend to think of it the other way around. But regardless, we live in a very special place. And Kelly just mentioned something I thought, one word that I think is pivotal to everything we've heard today, and that's the word listening. When we listen, when we really listen, we hear. Not just the words, but the meaning underneath. Ambassador Chowdhury said something in his opening remarks about peace. He said there's a place for peace in everything. Now, I found that incredibly inspiring. And I immediately started thinking about where might I not think peace could be. So we just have a few minutes left before we break for lunch. And I have one question about this for the panel. The smell of food is beginning to waft over, so we'll need to be brief. Where do you find yourself experiencing peace in your life in a novel way? So something, because Sandra spoke about the value of innovation, open-mindedness, coming up with new solutions. So what is maybe even surprising to you, but certainly something new where you're beginning to experience peace in a way you hadn't before? This is a question that requires a little bit of thoughtfulness in the moment, and anyone can go first.
I'm happy to jump in. When I got promoted to chief 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, something like that, very stressful. I had not figured out how to navigate that. My marriage was at that time falling apart also, which was actually a really fantastic thing because it was very dysfunctional. And I was doing a lot of work with a dear friend of mine who's a teacher in a way. And she taught me, gave me tools to every day stay connected to grace, stay connected to myself, and to let go a lot of this stuff that I don't have any control over. And even as I'm talking about this, I'm feeling that every moment of every day I can drop in and connect with grace and live in that and live in the tranquility and the peace that comes along with that. And that is a new, it hits me new every time I check in with that, every time I experience that. And I'm trying to connect with that more and more every day as I navigate a difficult job, a sometimes difficult community, and find happiness and find peace.
Thank you, Ty.
Yeah, I'll go next. The first thing that came to mind actually had to do with a meeting that I attended this week. And it relates back to my comment about trying not to be judgmental and have an open mind. And sometimes we tend to think that we have all the answers in Ashland because we have a lot of them and we have an incredibly creative, innovative place. But sometimes that's a barrier in terms of our regional collaboration. And I had an opportunity, I've recently been asked to serve on a regional economic development board called SOREDI, Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development. And we haven't always gotten along. We haven't always agreed regionally about what's important for the economy. And for many, many years, we've worked to try to create peace in this and have a common vision. And it's been challenging. It really has. But now there are people at the table who want to see that happen. They want to see collaboration at a regional level. And it was the most inspiring meeting I've been at. I'm on an advisory committee for the region, for the two-county region, to have a conversation about what does that really mean and how can we all be a part of it. And it was heartening to see people that I've known, some of them for a long time, and new people involved, talking about the valley and talking about our challenges, talking about how do we overcome perception of the valley, how do we overcome issues around smoke, how do we bring an effort of looking at educating our population, increasing our economy, the challenge with housing and all those issues. So I was inspired, and it was a surprise, and I'm happy, and I'm optimistic.
Wow. Great.
Well, I'm optimistic too. Besides the nice hot shower I take every morning, that's my moment of peace, but I have a 13-year-old son and work at a place where there are a lot of kids. I see the younger generation. I'm inspired by them. I can tell you that some of these generations coming up behind us are not going to put up with the shenanigans that we're dealing with now. And that makes me, I may not be able to influence many outcomes, do as much as I can the best way I think possible, but I see such great hope and intelligence and pragmatism in kids, the preschoolers that I'm around. So it gives me great hope that, hey, there's some innovative, interesting solutions coming forward to problems that are maybe so profound for us now, but I think that there's hope for the future, and I need that right now. And I think many of us are probably the same.
Something that I've been starting my day with is what I feel grateful for. So doing some reflection in the morning before I start work, sitting in my office with my notepad and just thinking about what am I grateful for. Because without gratitude, there also is no joy. And I feel every day that I want to find joy in the work that I do and making a difference for our students and our community and the future generations. One of the things is listening, as I said before, to student voice. And I think we have to really listen to our students. They have a lot of meaningful things to say, and we can learn a lot as adults from our students. I also practice listening and learning sessions with educators. I started that when I first started to understand the culture of Ashland schools, and I continued it last year and will continue it in the future to just go out to the schools and listen to our teachers, listen to our support staff, bus drivers, because we're all working together to make a difference for our students. And it's just very important that I listen and understand and they feel heard, and that then we can make changes that we need to at the district level to support all of our students to be successful and have a bright future.
Thank you. Well, thank all of you, and thank all of you for a wonderful morning. It's time to break for lunch, and I'm going to give you a little homework over lunch, which I hope will make it more enjoyable. Diversity, welcoming diversity, has been a real theme here, obviously, this morning. And yet, in social situations which we're about to shift into, we can often forget and just hang out with the people we know, because it's more comfortable. We're used to doing that. So I'd like to invite you during this lunchtime, which is how long, David?
It'll be an hour.
1 hour, and it's being served right over here, to connect with somebody you don't know or someone you don't know well and actively engage with them about perhaps topics you don't usually speak about, ask questions, build bridges, Tighe spoke about that, and expand your experience even just with 1 or 2 people in this room, because we're growing a culture of peace and we don't want to have it all bottled up in a little comfort zone. Let's expand it to a wider field, okay? So thank you again.
So before we leave.
Yeah.
Yep. And yes, before we depart for lunch, and some of you are on your own and others are going to be eating over here. Today is the International Day of Peace. And I was reminded by Greedy Wells that today is also the equinox. No, it's not. 23rd, okay. All right, so if it was the equinox, or when it is the equinox, actually think about that, when it is the equinox in a couple days, that it is the midpoint. It is equal light, equal dark. And we're in that time now where we have some choices. And you're in that energy of that. So hold that on the 23rd. Thank you. And also before we depart for lunch, over here is Pianos for Peace. This is a piano. There's a whole program that's really important. We're being blessed to have this here as a launch part. And Ethan will just give us a brief idea of what Pianos for Peace is.
Thank you all so much. And in exchange for just a moment before your lunch, we'll give you lots of music. So my name is Ethan Gansmore. I'm the executive director of Anima Mundi Productions. We're over here at this table. And over at the table is my partner and co-founder, Tiziana Della Rovere, and our colleague, Jane Canworthy, and our wonderful community member, Rita Wrights, who's going to be playing the piano during this lunch right now. And that is our Piano for Peace. It's part of a program that we're launching right now, and I'm going to very quickly take you through it. So Anima Mundi Productions, Anima Mundi means the soul of the world, and our mission is to heal the soul of the world through the arts, specifically through music. And we are launching a program called the Heart of Humanity Concert Series. It launches on October 6th. All of our concerts are at SOU, and our mission is to feature world-class musicians giving voice to marginalized people with compassion and depth, turning the concert hall into a space for renewed hope, communal healing, and mutual understanding. Our first concert is peace activist and Syrian composer and pianist Malik Shandali. And Malik is the founder of a nonprofit called Pianos for Peace. So in the first week of October, while he's here, we are going to be, in anticipation of his concert, we're going to be launching a week of free peace-themed events, which are on this flyer, and we have it over at the table. Thank you so very much.
Another innovation. And also, I'd like to ask Coyote Marie Hunter-Ripper to join me for a blessing of this land.
OCO. That's a Cherokee word for, hi everybody, how y'all doing? Okay. You're gonna see me wandering around here with a smoking pot, and I know that has another connotation. It's not the one you're thinking. You're gonna see me wandering around here, and you'll probably be wondering what I'm doing. So I'm gonna be blessing this space, offering a purification, and offering blessings just not to this space, but to every single one of you here. You'll smell the smoke, you'll see the feathers flying, and you may go ahead and go about your conversations and eating. If you'd like any more information about my representation here, you're welcome to join me at my table over there to the right. Using this little note card here reminds me of giving speeches in high school. Anybody else remembers these? No, yes. As I said, this is a purification ceremony, blessing you and this space, honoring the land spirits that are here, and asking their permission to be here on the Tighe, Klamath, and Shasta Indigenous Nations land. I'd like to take a moment of recognition, and I know that we are used to a moment of silence that is always appropriate. But now I'm going to ask us all to join in a moment of joyful noise for peace. All stand up, shout, sing, jump up and down, clap, go.
And before we move, International Day of Peace around the world at noontime, which is our time right now, is also a moment of silence. So let's take a moment and bring in all that we've experienced today, all the joy and everything that's been shared, just a moment of silence. And we're joining millions of people around the world at this time.